A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this 147th episode of the Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. More than 20 months ago, back in April 2020, when the schools had first shut down because of this insetting pandemic, we at Notebook felt it was our duty to put together a platform where teachers could connect meaningfully, discuss solutions to common problems that they were facing, especially with the onset of online education. Little did we know that more than 146 episodes later, this platform would grow to a size that we could never have anticipated. And for that, we have each and every one of you to thank. We have discussed a myriad range of topics here, right from the curricular to the extracurricular, to even topics like mental health and school finances. Today, however, we discuss a topic that goes right to the heart of Notebook, EdTech in the classroom. EdTech is not new. EdTech is more than decades old. In fact, people in India would remember back in the 1990s or the late 80s even, there were TV programs where teachers were teaching science through the television network. It has evolved a lot. It has gone from a TV to a computer, from smart boards into small mobile devices in our hands. However, it still remains very, very essential, especially now that we have gone through a pandemic, that we understand how EdTech can be best utilized in the classroom. To discuss this topic today, our first speaker today is Mr. Philip Barrett. Mr. Barrett retired from the illustrious Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. Mr. Barrett served the Doon School as housemaster, head of department, dean of activities, dean of student welfare, deputy headmaster, second master, and acting headmaster with great distinction. He also carried out a visioning exercise for the Doon School in the year 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. Mr. Barrett qualified as a leadership trainer at Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. He's also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist, and we at Notebook are privileged to have him as our senior advisor. It was also Sir's birthday yesterday, so Sir, from all of us on this platform, wish you a very, very happy birthday. We hope you had a great day yesterday and wish you a wonderful year ahead. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Subhaya, for that introduction. And not only did I have a great day, but very, very grateful to the gift that Notebook and the Notebook team sent me. It made a huge difference to my day. Very good evening to all of you. Yes, we have had a lot of discussion on topics like EdTech in the past. I want to start with saying that in my view, I think there is a difference between EdTech and the use of technology in the classroom. EdTech refers to the use of tools and programs, software that has been specifically designed to be used in schools as a learning aid to augment the teaching of the curriculum. These software packages, which may be downloaded or used online, have been created by teams consisting of, educational designers, teachers, software engineers, which schools have had to invest in and or children have had to buy. And these modules may be used before, during, or even after a lesson to aid understanding. Usually, a school signs a contract with an EdTech company for the use of their materials, like Tata Edge, Byju's, Notebook. Each of these products have their unique USPs and cater to a certain type of target audience. Some fare better with some learners, some with others. But all of these are packages, EdTech, and they need to be integrated into the teaching, with skillful teachers at the helm. On the other hand, technology in the classroom has been around for a long time, long before I retired. This does not need any administrative sanction or added cost to a school. I think all I needed even in the early 90s was a screen, a whiteboard would do, and a projector. And I would use a lot of images and PowerPoints to teach my subject. I stopped drawing maps. I stopped using chalk. I even stopped using much of the colors, the fiber pens on the board, because all I did was create PowerPoints, and I would make the class come alive with pictures, maps, drawings, agricultural types, mining, contours. And for me, a geography teacher, it changed the way I taught. I could get through the syllabus quicker. I think the children enjoyed the lessons better. I could send extra work to some of the smarter kids. I could send my entire PowerPoint to some of the children who were absent or who were not paying attention. I could even send homework. I could communicate with the children. I could answer individual queries. And of course, it all rested on the fact that the children should have had some smartphone or some device at home. And I could even save this material for future use, improve on it, add to it, update it. So this was the use of technology in the classrooms. But even before that, the first stirrings of technology in education began in my life in the mid 80s, when I was teaching in a school in Delhi, where they introduced computer science and computer programming as a part of the syllabus, and there was a board exam. And later, of course, computers entered school as modules for, as helps for the administration, for the hospital, the catering department, the admissions department. Teachers began doing online attendance, writing reports, filling in marks, which cut down a lot of the work of the teacher. I, at one time, was doing the school calendar. And before I could get Excel or PowerPoint or, Word document, I would do it with paper and pencil on huge sheets of paper. It took many, many months. So it simplified things. The advent of technology in the classroom helped us a lot. However, the absorption of EdTech in school lagged behind, both in the use of tech in teaching, because the demand, some teachers were not very adept at it. There was hesitancy and fear, because teachers were slow, much slower than students to adapt to it. Reason was, I think, fear that you'd be caught out by the students who were far ahead of many teachers. They thought that they would lose their control over data and information that they once had total access to. Now children had access to enough data. The second thing was the school's hesitancy to opt for one of the many commercial software options that were being advertised out there. They invested, and having invested a lot of money in a particular software, whether it be for the administrative offices, accounts, or even for teaching aids, they put in money for firewalls, for routers, projectors, smart boards, computer connections in each classroom. And then very soon it got outdated, or these computer software packets were not renewed, were not, got dull and boring. So schools were very hesitant to go for one particular software package, knowing fully well that around the corner, three weeks down the line, there may be something better. Now, also, EdTech is costly. Schools need to budget for it. And some of the more unfortunate schools have a difficult time to incorporate EdTech into their administrative and classroom usage. Fast forward to 2000 and the pandemic struck. And what did we have? We had all this fear that the teachers had, all this hesitancy was laid to rest. Teachers quickly took to online education and became very adept at Google Class, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, whatever you have. And children were busy learning when schools were shut. Teachers, even when they were reluctant to use EdTech, the die-hard traditionalists became experts because it became a matter of survival. You either knew how to use EdTech or you were sidelined. I know many teachers who were actually retrenched. They were absolutely misfits when it came to online learning. Of course, there are still many unanswered questions. Did everyone equally benefit from online education? I don't think so, because there's a huge amount of people who did not benefit because they were marginally, economically, underprivileged. There was no laptops, there was no internet connectivity. Some of the richer kids in the metros benefited more. Then, was real learning taking place? There was a lack of personal contact with teachers. There were problems of children not being seen. When they put their hands up, there was no contact, there was no interaction. And teaching, in my view, is a two-way process. There was absence of dialogue. There was no individual attention. Um, now, was this type of learning creating more problems than it was solving? Because there was a lot of depression, obesity, frustration, mental illness, substance abuse, domestic violence, isolation, lack of connection. So this is what happened when you had online or tech education. Now, one thing it is to be, one thing that has emerged after the pandemic is that digital education and edtech is here to stay, whether you have a pandemic or not, because life is never going to be the same again. And because now we are going in for blended, we are going in for hybrid learning, because kids are used to it, teachers are used to it. This is the way forward, whether there's a pandemic or no pandemic. Back to my opening sentence. Have we moved to edtech? I think not, because edtech exists only when digital inputs are embedded in a lesson plan and used as a part of a lesson planning, either in the beginning, middle, as I said, or in the end. Where the calculation of angles, the explanation of Pythagoras, the laws of flotation can actually be taught through switching on a program, an edtech module. These are all ready-made softwares, which you need a laptop and a skilled teacher. Now, no teachers would teach the same module in the same way. A skilled teacher could integrate the chalk and talk and discussion method and the debating style with an edtech module, and seamlessly move between the edtech and the traditional methods. It doesn't slow the lesson down. In fact, it aids understanding and it moves smoothly. The advantages of edtech are numerous, much more fun, teaching by visuals, much more interactive. It's something that the children are used to. The children are very adept at all this. It's more in line with the way they learn and they function. This is what they have been exposed to. And this is what they are going to be expected to know in the workforce and the work world of tomorrow. It also brings about a more research-based, self-directed learning style, where students work at their own pace and discover what for themselves. There is now no need for the teacher to put in inputs on information and facts, because the children have now access to that. It changes the way students learn, and it moves from teacher-centered education more into child-centered education. Now, we can only make edtech equally available to all children, even those in the rural areas. And if the prices drop, if the government comes in with various ways in which it can spread easily, also when teachers become more skilled, the entire teacher training has to now be geared to edtech learning, because there is no point in introducing edtech when teachers are not adept at it. The teacher training of tomorrow has to be edtech based. The schools of tomorrow will have to stress on artificial intelligence, coding, robotics being linked with coding, along with merging subjects like the sciences into one group, where science, tech, engineering, and maths, along with the arts, the STEAM, will have to be the new way forward. And this cannot be possible without the greater use of edtech in the classroom. And I have to end by saying that edtech in no way removes the teacher or replaces the teacher. It only augments the teacher. The teacher doesn't diminish. His role or her role changes. And therefore, a skilled teacher, along with good edtech, is what leads to good education, and which is what schools of tomorrow will need. Thank you for listening. It's been a pleasure talking about this topic. We have a wonderful panel, and I look forward to listening to them and to Achin. Thank you very much, Subayu.
Thank you so much, sir, as always, for the wonderful introduction. You're the best opening batsman that this team could have dreamed of. So the thing that you said last about edtech never being a replacement for the teacher, that rings so true. And we at Notebook also firmly believe that the teacher is the center of the child's school experience. Everything else that we edtech providers can do can only augment, can only aid the wonderful job that teachers are doing. Thank you. Thank you so much for that start, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker on this topic is Achin Bhattacharya. Achin is the founder and CEO at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad. in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. He is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales, a fellow of the ICAI, and a member of CPA Australia and CPA Ireland. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. An avid reader and a passionate traveler, Achin has keen interest in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Shubha, am I audible?
Yeah, Achin, loud and clear.
I once again welcome all of you to today's session on a topic that's not only relevant, but also one of the most discussed and debated ones across academic circles. History has proved time and again that changes which circumstance beyond our control have forced upon us later become indispensable part of our lives. And although the status quo in terms of events which led to these changes may be later restored, some of these changes become the new normal. So the current global pandemic, which is unprecedented and devastating, is something that none of us had ever envisaged. And undoubtedly, although it is one of the worst humanitarian tragedies that could have ever occurred in the face of the planet, there is no denying the fact that it has also changed and challenged. It has actually forced many of us to go back to our drawing boards and start re-evaluating. It has challenged many of our existing lifestyle preferences and social orders. I think as a nation, our educators, our teachers from across the length and breadth of the country have demonstrated beyond doubt their resolve to further the cause of education. What we saw during the last 18-20 months is something which is unimaginable. In spite of schools being closed, we have seen children not losing a precious academic year. We have seen teachers who are stalwarts, who have been around for decades now, and are master of their craft in terms of chalk and talk pedagogy, in terms of traditional teaching ways. We have seen them overcoming the challenge. We have seen them very quickly, very flexibly adapting to new ways of teaching, being conversant with online platforms. Whenever in any circle, I discuss about EdTech, I always tell them that between these two words, education and technology, we at Notebook are very clear. Education comes first, and technology to us is an enabler which helps us amplify the efforts of a great teacher and ensure that a great teacher steps out of his 40 pupil classroom and reach 1,000 or 1,00,000 or maybe even 1,000,000 deserving students. So what technology can do is, of course, amplify the efforts of the teacher. But as Bharat sir and as Shubha, you very rightly mentioned, technology in itself is not a problem solver. Education will always come first. So I think during pandemic, what we have seen, the kind of digital adoption we have seen, whatever inhibitions many of us had with regard to technology. We have seen people adopting technology, maybe at times out of compulsion, but also realizing the benefits of it. And we've seen them emerging as winners. But then, even if for a second, today we go back to the pre-COVID phase, for once, even if I choose not to discuss about what has happened in the last 18, 20 months, still, there's no denying the fact that changes have taken place in terms of everything around us. And we would all agree. And when we say everything around us, right from the way in which we keep in touch with our friends or extended family, to the process of booking air tickets or cab, method for subscribing to an insurance policy, or the way we plan to book our next holiday. Everything around us has changed. And if we find one common factor, so be it in terms of ordering your food over Swiggy or booking an Uber, or the good old travel agent being replaced by online portals, if there's one single factor, if there's one important factor that we single out, is convenience. Convenience has been the order of the day. And if we look carefully, none of these needs are new. Needs are very basic. Needs are very basic, perpetual. They have been around from times immemorial. Be it need for food, be it need for transportation. So neither is the basic intent of the service provider or the recipient. They were always around. The only change is the aggregation and structuring of an already existing ecosystem to ensure uniform, consistent quality assurance, error-free delivery with the aid of technology, and offering value for money using economies of scale. I think as a nation, we are blessed because that's one fundamental core advantage that we have, economies of scale, because of which, in fact, the other day I was discussing data prices in India are among the cheapest in the world. Again, the only reason being economies of scale, costs being shared by so many subscribers. So now, today, if we look at the entire thing, and for a second, I step out of education and take a more holistic view of things. I was discussing about different brands, different industries. So it has led to a scenario where only the best and brightest will survive, as any kind of protectionism, holier than thou attitude will not come to our aid in a world which believes in one single mantra, and that is democratic access to information about various available alternatives. Thus, quality, consistency, and value for money are non-negotiable. And I believe any marketing strategy can never compensate for any lacuna in any of these areas. So it's like one lazy day at office and Jack will be out of business. The other question is, now, if we again come back to education, so we discussed about the larger social context. But if we again come back to education, the question is, and this again is on the most debated topics, have the academic landscape truly been change averse? Of course, last 18, 20 months, we have seen a lot of changes. But if we discuss in general, pre-pandemic era. So I guess it's a thought-provoking question. There's no denying the fact that numerous changes for betterment have surely taken place. And myself, what I've seen is in my school visits to almost all parts of the country, I have seen some of the most dedicated, knowledgeable, and humble souls in teaching profession. However, chalk and talk pedagogy with a uniform one-shoe-fits-all approach was still the predominant mode of instruction in many of our schools. Now, there are exceptions. Of course, there are notable exceptions. There are great teachers who are willing to unlearn and lead the change. But as a nation with the highest number of schoolgoers in the country, the school and schooling system in India will have a very major impact on the ways of the world a few decades from now. So now, when we discuss about something like digital education, we would all agree that there's nothing new in it. It has been around for quite some time. Abites was discussing about the gradual progression that he has seen from 90s, and then gradually, how different brands came in. However, my concern, or one thing that we always discuss and which we always discuss with a lot of passion, is that it's not only a question of ticking a checkbox. As an industry, is EdTech actually serving purpose? Are we filling the need gap? No. Unfortunately, in many schools, for many years, it has been a mere tick in the checkbox. And I think it also calls for soul searching for EdTech brands as well. It's not only about academic community being change averse. I think EdTech brands also need to start thinking that where are we adding value? How are we adding value? I once visited a school in Western India in 2019. And let me share a small incident. I was being shown around by the learned principal, who was a wonderful host. And it took me around the smart classes. If my memory serves me correct, the school had around 60 classrooms, and out of which only 10 were equipped with smart class infra. And when we walked into one of them, and I wanted to see for myself how the content was, how it worked, he called the operator to switch it on, who took full 5 minutes to figure out the switches, and 10 more minutes to get it going. So I have a few questions here. When we don't need an operator, because again, we are discussing about EdTech in classroom. When we don't need an operator to book a cab or order food, why will we need an operator to switch on the smart class? Now, the content was made by one of the oldest EdTech brands. And without even getting into any discussion on quality of the content, which is not my intention, my simple question is, why can't it be more user-friendly? Ideally, it should be as easy as operating a smartphone. It should be as easy as sending a WhatsApp message to your friend. And this is where I think as an industry, EdTech brands need to rise to the occasion. In fact, when we started this journey at Notebook, one of the most important criteria that we always had in our mind was, while designing the platform, was ease of use. We were very clear that we are not designing rockets. The objective is not to make things complicated. The objective is to try and ensure how to simplify things. How to ensure that it has the comfort factor that a personal handheld device offers. The other part is, I think when we discuss about EdTech in classroom, the other question I have, why did a school with 60 classrooms have only 10 smart classes? I understand that technicalities about content licensing, but what practical purpose is it serving? We are not showing Spielberg's Jurassic Park. It's not a movie, right? What we are showing is an everyday affair. And I know some of you thinking about that, in many schools, 100% classrooms are smart classrooms. But I'm not discussing about the challenges in only marquee schools. I'm discussing about the majority of schools. So again, one fundamental thing that we have always believed at Notebook is that there's nothing called restriction in terms of number of licensed classrooms. So once we work with the school, they can use Notebook content in as many classrooms, libraries, staff rooms that they want. Third is, I think, a very important point. I had seen that many edtech brands, but I was referring to some names, marquee players, very clearly two different categories. Some catering to schools, some catering to individual students. But it's the same student. So the way you call it B2B and B2C. But I think education is too sensitive a subject to categorize into business buckets. I think it's too serious a subject because it's the same student who has to go to school and who also comes back home and revise a topic or prepare a test. And the same enthusiastic teacher who wants to prepare for the class next day. Now, if the student can carry his textbook in his school bag and use it both at home as well as in school, why can't it be the same for digital content? Again, it should be that simple, right? That at home, content should be viewed by any device which has a screen and connected to internet. Maybe smartphone, laptop, desktop, anything, smart TV. And same in schools. Why do we need expensive hardware and infrastructure? Why do we need a projector? Why do we need all that, jazz around maintenance? Why can't it be a simple smart TV, which we use in our homes to watch news or to watch? It can be as simple as that with almost zero maintenance. The other is, I think, in order to be relevant, because we're discussing about EdTech in classrooms, now we need to understand that as far as classrooms are concerned, I think there's no doubt about it that the teacher in the classroom is the master of the ceremony. He or she exactly knows how to teach a particular topic so that students understand, children understand. And a teacher has a lot on his or her plate. It's not only about discussing a topic, it's also about ensuring peer-to-peer learning. It's also about asking questions, ensuring the students are participating in the discussion. So I think content, and when we are looking at a phygital way of teaching, which is, of course, now post-pandemic, when we see schools opening up, I think more and more we are getting into the phygital way of teaching, in which, in order to be relevant, edtech content needs to have razor sharp editing, can't be repetitive. It has to set the tone for in-depth study or meaningful discussion by teacher. And that's exactly what at Notebook we aspire to do. We try to ensure the students study the topics in a storytelling format in which they grasp a topic without even realizing that they are studying a topic which is completely mapped to syllabus. It's more like listening to a story. Learning has to be fun, not only in letter, but also in spirit. So I think EdTech fraternity also has the responsibility of delivering value in terms of return on time, the time that the student or teacher invests. Because in a 40-minute session, 40-minute period, a teacher has a lot to do. So thus we need to ensure that if 7, 8, or 10 minutes are dedicated towards audiovisual content needs to do justice towards it. The other aspect is that schools and teachers, as Shubhai mentioned, have a huge role in child's upbringing. And it's a much larger context. Schools are like miniature versions of society. Today, if you look at a child's overall growth, schools are indispensable. There's no doubt about it. And no EdTech brand in the world can never ever dream to replace a school. That will never happen. Trust me. Now, digital content at best can be a value-adding tool. It can be an enabler, which will empower teachers further. The objective should be to connect a great teacher with a student who may be in a remote part of the world, who may be a first-generation learner, who may not have multiple layers of support at home and outside, who may have barriers in terms of economic barriers, in terms of geographic access barriers. So digital education has a responsibility to achieve this noble vision in order to ensure equality of access. I believe in a country like ours, the only way to fast track the upliftment of academic standards and give best in class educational access to every child in all corners of the country is centralized building of content by pooling resources, storage in cloud, and efficient cost-effective distribution through internet. But as we discussed, that nothing can replace the role of a teacher and his or her influence in motivating or mentoring a child, in appreciating his smallest of achievements, which often gets unnoticed in a fast-paced world. Because a few words of encouragement from a teacher can do wonders to a child's life. Learning, by and large, is an immersive lifelong journey. And the distance one covers in this journey depends on many factors. But the most important factor, which I believe, of course, all of us will have our own individual take on that. But to me, the most important factor is the degree of curiosity that a child has. And only a great teacher can ignite that curiosity with passion for excellence. And I think when we work with so many educators, we are so fortunate to get the opportunity to work with so many esteemed educators from around the country. And we have seen, that building curiosity, ensuring that students build interest is so important. And we have given a lot of stress on that. I can tell that to you from my personal experience. So these are a few things that I wanted to discuss and share with all of you. Of course, a topic like EdTech being so close to my heart after being an EdTech entrepreneur for the last 4 years that I could go on and on. I thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing. We have a great panel here today. I think Birds also gave us a wonderful start and made some and raised some very important and pertinent issues. Likewise, we have a very experienced and esteemed panel here today. And I'm sure they'll share their own experiences, which all of us look forward to hear from them. I once again thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing. Over to you, Shubhayya.
Thank you, Achin. Thank you for taking us through the various nuances of EdTech. I have worked closely with Achin these last 4 years, and I'm sure all of you must have noticed the number of times Achin said, "Why not?" which kind of reminds you of the great Bernard Shaw quote, "Others see things as they are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not." Well, as Achin mentioned, we do have a fantastic panel lined up for you. But before I introduce the panel to you, a little bit about us here at Notebook. As Achin was mentioning, we are an EdTech platform that bridges the gap between school and home. Notebook videos are available for each and every topic of the school curriculum. This makes life easier both for the teacher as well as the student. The teachers can use these videos in their classrooms using any device, just as Achin mentioned, and have these as a visual introduction to the topic that you have planned for the day. The student at home has access to these same videos on their personal devices. Be it a smartphone or a laptop, the students can watch these videos over and over again until they have a complete grasp of the topic. Well, with the CBSE Term 1 exams currently ongoing, we thought it would be a great idea to share a small showreel of notebook content for class 10. Have a look.
नमस्ते बच्चों, नोटबुक में आपका स्वागत है। इस नए वीडियो को आपके सामने प्रस्तुत करते हुए हमें बेहद खुशी हो रही है। हमारा उद्देश्य है परंपरागत शिक्षा को आधुनिक तरीके से पेश करना, ताकि हमारी ये नई पीढ़ी या आप सभी कहीं भी कभी भी इसे आसानी से पढ़ सकें।
A sentence is a cluster of words or phrases joined together to convey complete sense, having two main parts, the subject and the predicate. If we want to classify sentences by their structure, then they are of three types: simple, compound, and complex.
Let L be the slant height of the frustum. L is equal to root over R2 minus R1 whole square plus 8 square, which is equal to root over 12 minus 7 whole square plus 9 square.
उनकी दंतुरित मुस्कान सभी का मन मोह लेती है। आज हमारा विषय है बाबा नागार्जुन की चर्चित कविता यह दंतुरित मुस्कान। कविता पाठ के पूर्व कवि के जीवन और कृतित्व की चर्चा करते हैं। प्रगतिवादी काव्य धारा के प्रसिद्ध कवि नागार्जुन का जन्म 30 जून सन 1911 में तथा देहांत 5 नवंबर सन 1998 में हुआ था।
So when we look at images formed on reflective surfaces, it is a direct application of the law of reflection. The incident rays fall on the surface of the mirror only to be reflected back, forming an angle of incidence and reflection on the same plane and then reaching the eyes so that we are able to see them. This kind of reflection is called specular reflection.
On being thrown out by his landlord, he set fire to the house. He removed all his clothes and became invisible to escape the police. This act rendered him a homeless wanderer without clothes or money. Griffin happened to step in a patch of mud and left footprints as he walked along. These footprints without feet caught the attention of two boys. Griffin easily escaped them.
The poverty that the African Americans experienced is black poverty. It was more isolating and concentrated. In their case, the black socks with no shoes represented black poverty. The Black Power was a militant anti-racist movement that emerged in 1966 and lasted till 1975. The movement advocated violence if required to end racism in the United States. Will you be able to support your friend if he or she experiences racial discrimination?
पिछले वीडियो में हमने कारतूस एकांकी को विस्तार से समझा था, तो आइए इसके मुख्य बिंदुओं पर हम संक्षेप में चर्चा करते हैं। यह एकांकी एक जाबाज सिपाही वजीर अली को समर्पित है, जो अपनी बुद्धि और पराक्रम से अंग्रेजों को चुनौतियां देता रहता है।
Books produced with woodblock became popular in Italy. Expensive books meant for the aristocracy were often printed on vellum or parchment made from animal skin. This meant new employment for scribes and booksellers. Booksellers exported vast number of books all over Europe, and to produce them, they employed scribes. Woodblock printing required extensive copying, so a new way had to be devised to print books more quickly and cheaply. Johann Gutenberg in Germany developed one of the earliest printing presses in the 1430s.
नोटबुक में आप सभी का पुनः स्वागत है।
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was a snippet of multiple class 10 videos, and it is now my privilege to introduce the wonderful panel that we have lined up for you. We have with us today Mrs. Manju Gupta, who is the former principal of the Kothari International School in Noida. She has been the recipient of the National Teachers Award 1999, Pride of India Award, Inspiring Educators Award, and many others. She has over 4 decades of diverse work experience, out of which for 28 years, she worked as the principal of schools with CBSE, Cambridge, and IBO curricula. She has been an international and national trainer with various organizations. She leaves no stone unturned for increasing the learning and happiness quotient of people in her sphere of influence. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here today. It's a privilege to have you. We also have with us Mr. Harishubhas Raghav, who is the founder director of Samadhan Academy in Bangalore. He holds a master's degree in English and an MPhil. He also holds a diploma in career counseling and a diploma in child counseling and mentoring. He has worked for the Indian Air Force for 16 years and in the field of sales and marketing for over 10 years. He's also worked for over 10 years in the education field at Bangalore. He manages Samadhan Academy in Bangalore, engaged in career counseling, student mentoring, soft skills training, motivational seminars, stress management, etc. He has conducted career counseling seminars for over 200 schools in Bangalore. He has conducted over 50 webinars on various topics like motivation, career options, and stress management. He successfully completed a project named Listener to Learner through community radio, sponsored by the Commonwealth Educational Media Center for Asia, New Delhi, for 5 radio stations answering students' questions on career, stress, entrance exams, etc. Sir, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for making the time. I shall stop my share now and request the 2 panelists to please come on camera. Once again, a very good evening, and thank you so much for being here. It's a privilege and an honor to have you here. Manju ma'am, my first question is to you. And this obviously goes back to the decades of experience that you have. Do you really feel that EdTech can be a part of the classroom, or is it purely an at-home learning aid? Ma'am, you'll have to unmute yourself, please.
Namaskar, everybody. And thank you for inviting me to this panel. And thank you, Notebook team, for calling me over. If you say EdTech, is it the part of classroom? Well, it was a part of classroom long ago. I would say in 80s, late 80s, I experienced late 80s, and it became a very active part of the classroom as we moved on. And year 2000 was like, well, Intel coming, Teach to the Future program, etc. It became a part of each classroom and part of the curriculum, part of the lesson plan in almost all schools. And so EdTech was there. Now, if I see the gradual improvement, development of the EdTech in classroom, I see it has moved exponentially in last 2 years, the pandemic years. The teachers have really adapted to EdTech, and believe you me, as they come back and the schools are planning for reopening, these teachers cannot do without EdTech in the classroom. So the EdTech has become integral, I would say, the air or the blood of the classroom. So the result of that is, if you ask me, is it going to be there, or is EdTech is going to be there in the classroom? Well, classroom cannot exist without EdTech. That would be my submission. And teachers have really taken it to. Children are adapted to it. So our indomitable spirit of Indian teachers or teachers across the world, we have embraced EdTech to an extent that if you ask me today, take a class without EdTech, it'll be impossible. I was at a panel just before this session, and the question was that, can we use this platform in the classrooms, etc., etc.? And my answer was, well, what's new in this platform? Because there are numerous platforms available to be used, or to be, I would say, it's kind of an Amazon kind of a thing these days, that which platform, which software I choose to make my lessons effective, to reach my target of making children learn. So it is available in abundance. It is the quality and the consciousness of a teacher who will bring that into the classroom. Again, it is all about the finances. It's all about the policies of the school's classroom. When the EdTech will enter into the classroom at that level. There are schools who are just thinking of doing all academic or the cognitive learning through EdTech, which is in the blended mode, blended or hybrid. Well, both are possible, but this is going to be tomorrow, or this is today. Why am I saying tomorrow? Today also. Today, can we, I and you are together today all because of the EdTech. So how can we not have EdTech? My question. So EdTech, why not, as Achin says? So I am with you that EdTech is there, and EdTech has to be there with all possible, and the growth has to happen. Growth has to happen. Achin was talking about that, why do we have such expensive and such, like, I think he was talking about Educom. I'm taking the name also. The smart boards were there in the schools, and my school also had smart boards. So all these things were there. This is the progression which has happened. Now today, if as the discussion was, and Achin was saying that, can we have the smart TVs and can't they be used? Well, everything can be used, and tomorrow we do not know what new things will emerge and will be invented. That, well, we don't even need a device I'm sitting in front of. It may be a virtual thing, something I do in the air, which we see in today's, what do you call it, the movies, that nothing is there and everything is there, kind of. So everything, I don't know, I didn't even imagine in my life, early life, that I'll have a touch screen. But today, touch screen, a mobile without a touch screen is a useless mobile. That's what people say. So the technology is improving, and the learning curve is growing exponentially. So we have to make a good bridge between the technology and the learning. Second thing, EdTech can do a little, is just an enabler. It is just an enabler, but this can replace a teacher. People say it cannot replace a teacher. In today's time, the kind of schools and the goals schools have, that so many marks, this is what curriculum is to be completed. All these things, Raghav is laughing, but I think he's agreeing with me that if I have to get 100 on 100 in any subject, I don't need a teacher. An EdTech device, a software will make a student, teach him good enough to get that 100 on 100, but may not make that child a human. So to make that child human, you need a teacher. So the focus of the schools has to change. No more this EdTech is going to replace today's teacher. It very well can replace today's teacher. So many softwares are there, so many capsules, your notebook capsules, which you showed just now. They can, of course, if I see that and if I understand the chapter, why do I need a teacher? Maybe who's not as capable as the teacher in the video was there. So why do I need that teacher? So a teacher can be replaced if the teacher does not understand, school do not understand their own role, and that is developing a person. So the personal qualities, the social, emotional capabilities of a person can happen and can be improved in a school where you don't need EdTech. You don't need EdTech to nurture a child, his capabilities, to emotionally competent, socially aware, and have all possible values of humanism. So if we want this to happen, you don't need EdTech. But if I want to train a child to get 100 on 100, if I want to give the child the skills of doing things, well, various virtual platforms are there which can teach. So that's my take on it, that if the school of tomorrow has to exist and be distinguished, has to be a school where they touch a child socially, emotionally, skilling the child, not making the schools delivering content. अगर ये करना है तो स्कूल में टीचर की जरूरत नहीं है, EdTech कर देगा. Have I said? Have I made a sense?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for this. We completely agree with you. It's just that when we launched into this activity, before we started Notebook, we had looked at schools and we had looked at schools across the spectrum, very large schools as well as very small single room schools. And what we realized is the teacher's role goes far beyond content dissemination. Now, that is the part, as you rightly said, that EdTech cannot take care of. There is a human connect. The teacher understands the student over a period of years. The teacher perhaps knows if there's a problem at the student's home and knows which student needs to be handled in a certain way. The content dissemination part, yes, to an extent, we at EdTech can try to aid the teacher's efforts, is the best that we can do.
You can take over. You can take over that. I'm telling you, you can take over, but you cannot take over the human touch of a teacher. So the teacher's pad is an important pad. Teacher's node is an important node. But subject पढ़ाने के लिए teacher नहीं चाहिए. The Google Baba is good enough. Okay.
Right, ma'am. With that, we'll move across to Mr. Raghav, sir. Mr. Raghav has been sitting there silently applauding everything that ma'am has said. But sir, we would also want your take on this. You are in Bangalore, one of the cities that is ahead of the curve when it comes to adopting technology. Sir, do you also feel that EdTech has a place in the classroom? Or do you think the classroom should just be a pristine, as ma'am said, the human touch element should happen in the classroom, whereas the EdTech remains at home?
No, don't read me wrong. The EdTech does not remain at home. EdTech can replace a teacher in school also and at home also. So learning can happen of subject, but EdTech is not for home.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Subayu, and thank you very much for calling me for this panelist discussion. I'm really happy to have listened Mr. Bharat and Mrs. Manju Gupta before I could speak on this. I would try to explain two different aspects of what we have been talking, East and West. I belong from interior rural area, and I had been recently there for a couple of seminars. It's a place in Western UP, district Bulandshahr, near Ganga River, from where I belong to actually. And fortunately, I have been staying here for last 25 years in Bangalore. I was also trying to be reluctant to name that company, but I have been working with those kind of companies, tech companies of those days, Tata Edge, Educomp and things like that. Nothing to blame. As Madam was very clearly making the point that it's a transition point. That time it was supposed to be like that. Mr. Achin very clearly mentioned that when he was traveling to Gujarat and he saw this situation and that. Opposite of that, I saw in my place, district Bulandshahr, and it's a small town called Anupshahr, totally interior rural area, where I thought that I would be doing something like that, like this. You would be surprised that the school where I was doing this seminar called Pardada Pardadi International School, it's a school for girls. Students are from rural area, but the school and its infrastructure is completely international. It's completely of today. When they asked me, how would you do? I said, however you want me to do, I would do. If you have something, projector, sir, projector we don't have, but we have smart TV. I was surprised. He is telling me projector I don't have, but I have smart TV. I said, smart TV would do. What are you carrying, sir? I said, I am carrying laptop as well as the pen drive. Pen drive you give me, sir. So as Mr. Achin was saying that why do we need an operator to for a teacher to start the class? I did not need anybody there. I just post my pen drive there and I opened as you do on your laptop, and I started doing things. And believe me, in that room, there were 4 photos of Mrs. Sudha Murthy and her book. And every student knew that Mrs. Sudha Murthy is wife of Narayan Murthy, founder of Infosys and things like that. Please try to understand that EdTech is going at the faster speed than what we used to think before. Various reasons were there. It was used, it was moving very slow for reasons. We know, let's not try to blame anybody. Transition. What Mrs. Manju was saying is the correct word. So I personally think that teacher can never be replaced by any educational technology. I would quote one very small example. When I was doing my MPhil in 1992, I was around 31 years old. Our beautiful teacher of around 55 years aged came into the class, and we were all teachers. I mean, except me, everybody was teacher. We were around 100 participants, lecturers. And then she started doing, Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. And she was making the waves. Everybody was attentive towards her, and she told, this is how you should enter your classroom so that your students start understanding, relating, integrating yourself, themselves towards teacher, that somebody is there to add value to our life. You can, in my seminar, I keep mentioning 80% of what is there in book can be learned by the student without any guide. Forget teacher, without even guide, book guide, I am saying 80%. But this is pure theory. The another example, we keep saying that IITs make you a good human being, and in the process of that 4 years, they also make you engineer. That is what Mrs. Manju was trying to say. You can become engineer. That is fine, perfectly fine. What about being human being? What about being? Forget the human, a being. So a teacher would be required. It is must. What is required is integrating the technology correctly, I would say personally, my stand is very clear, is for that school. You integrate your technology to your school goals. You have your goals. See, I and Mr. Philip Barrett belong to two different sections of students as far as catering to the students is concerned. So it is easier to say this for Mr. Bharat and the segment of the students. It is very difficult where the student does not know what is the spelling of precariously or obedient or grammar. The spelling of grammar is not known. How to teach grammar? When I told them, you give me 10 hours, that means around 15 periods of grammar, and I would teach you grammar both way. When you would get 90% marks, to in any competitive exams later, that means you would get same 90% of marks. Means you would not only learn, you would also understand grammar. I need only 20 hours, but there are issues. So there are students of that nature and there are students of this nature. I have seen teachers evolving since I am from Air Force to everybody who has been working for these 18 months very seriously on war footing. But very big but, our teachers, I'm not saying a world, I'm talking about India now. Our teachers have evolved in a way which was not expected by any like
Mr. Raghav, sir, your
our teachers don't know mouse. How we are in December 21. Sorry.
Mr. Raghav, sir, your connection seems to be a little disturbed. Your voice is breaking up. Could you just repeat that last bit? Mr. Raghav, sir, are you there? Mr. Raghav, sir, are you there?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So to conclude, say teacher, but this is not only at home.
Unfortunately, we seem to be having a bit of connectivity issue. Achin, could you please confirm that this is not at my end? Could be a connection issue at my end.
Actually, I think at your end it's completely fine.
Thanks for confirming. Manju ma'am, we had lost you there for a few seconds.
Back. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think Raghav sir has also joined back. Yeah, great.
So I will conclude that our teachers have started that work which needs to be done for integrating this technology in our school system, and we would be successful. EdTech would survive. It will be required. It will not be that kind of EdTech. It would be, I'm sorry to say, it would be notebook kind of EdTech. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. When teachers like you and Manju ma'am with years of experience give us your vote of approval, means the world to us. Manju ma'am, Mr. Raghav sir was just talking about EdTech being used correctly. My question is, in the current shape and form that we find it in classrooms, do you think we are doing enough? Do you think there's more that we can do? Do you think we can use less of it?
Well, there's never enough for me, and there is nothing ultimate. For me, perfection is just a direction, not a destination. That's how I define anything in life. So whatever is the state of EdTech, I have seen personally in last 2 years, in terms of EdTech usage in the classroom, in the lectures with the teachers, because I take teachers' classes. Teachers take students' classes. So for me, teachers are the students. The kind of usage of EdTech which has happened because of the multiple softwares available. Like, I wish you'd used some of those here on this platform. So you could have had the opinion poll, you could have had the quizzes, you could have had the Padlet, that whatever we think we posted, kind of. So there's so many softwares which are available. When they are used in the classrooms or in conversation, which may be digital, which may be face-to-face, if we have such kind of conversations with the EdTech, I believe, and I am sure, I believe, that the learning goes multifold. It becomes very involved. It's not I talk, you listen, and you talk, I listen. It's we do it together. So EdTech today's EdTech is making it possible to do things together simultaneously, holding hands virtually. So the whole story goes that EdTech has evolved. It's just not I narrate a story and it's a passive. I'm not a passive user of EdTech. Tomorrow's EdTech is going to make learning, active learning rather, where the child and the teacher simultaneously will use the technology. I remember long ago, this was somewhere in 2008. My students have traveled across, they've done very, very well. So one of them came back, that time I was in Baroda, and he came back from US and he says, I want to start, like Achin started his EdTech company, I want to start this. And he was developing an LMS platform, and he shared his screen with me and he explained it to me that this is how we are doing it and this is how we can do it and what is your opinion. For me, sharing of screen was a oh, where are we and where are they kind of a thing. Today, it is so very normal. So number of and as I talk to all of you, I learn every day. Today also I have learned. So every day I learn about EdTech and about softwares, and this helps me to improve teaching learning process, or forget about teaching learning process. I want to delete now this scheme of education, the word teaching. It's only learning. Learning happens for the teacher, learning happens for the student. So, hamare yahan, as our Indian philosophy says, Sehna bhavatu, sehno bhunattu, sahaviryam. So it's together the teacher and the taught learns when we embark on the journey of education. So if you're doing that, EdTech is helping both. And it's going to go exponentially the way the human mind is growing. We're talking about AI, we're talking about this, we're talking, and tomorrow there'll be new words which will come up. Beyond artificial intelligence, something more would come up, which maybe I pray to God that I live to see all that. But what I'm trying to say is, well, the beautiful world, the EdTech enabled world is waiting for all of us if we do not march with it. We are going to be left behind. And if we are left behind, well, God saves us. So whole thing is we have to be ready learners. And people like you and people like your platforms have to educate, have to just not make videos about the textbook, grade 10 textbooks. No, talk about how evolution of EdTech is happening. That will be my request.
Wonderful, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much for that guidance. Mr. Raghav, sir, we'll come back to you. So you just narrated this event about the Pardada Pardadi International School. Now, for a very long time, it has been seen as this very expensive thing that schools can do, and it's only for the rich schools, the big schools. But the case study that you just now narrated. So what do you think smaller schools can do to ensure that they are using EdTech in their classrooms better?
This is what is actually crux of the matter what we have been discussing. We have to start, and this is my this topic is very near to my heart because I belong from that area. People have to start from there at the small level, small portions they can do. Smart TV is very cost effective, not very costly. And Mr. Achin was also trying to make that point. We don't need so much of infrastructure now. Incidentally, there is a question in Q&A. If you can give that question to me, I would like to answer that question. Very related to that is your question that smaller schools can start this in a better way than bigger schools. How is their requirements are also accordingly small. Their requirements are not big. See, if Pythagoras theorem, don't explain to them the way we can explain to Doon school or some school in Bangalore. You explain to them the way a village or rural student can be explained. I mean, you say कि देखो आप जब दीवार बन रही होती है तो उसके कोने में जो वो मिस्त्री होता है उसको एक 3 कोण का होता है, उसको कैसे लगा के देखता है? Why does he do that? And he is not learned, he is not educated, and even I can't write Pythagoras and theorem spellings, even I do not know. But the guy seems to be knowing Pythagoras theorem that it should be 90-degree angle. And if you see our all competitive exams, we see that 2 angles, the numbers are given 60 degree and this degree, what is the third? And people are able to create mistakes there. Wow, how come we can go and create mistake? 2 angles are given, third angle is 360 minus this, right? So that way I personally feel that this fire has to be there in that school, principal or the management, whatever we see. And as we were trying to say, that reception also should be there. The students need to be tuned. And I have done this in this October, 1.5 months before. They were so receptive. I have never done those kind of seminars in Bangalore. Here, the listening or the reception is percentile basis down, but there it was 100, 100. And they were trying to see what more. It will be successful, Mr. Subhayu. We have to start from the beginning. No worry that EduComp days have gone. I'm sorry to name again.
When we put up this video on YouTube, I'm hoping that there would not be too many copyright strikes.
No.
Manju, I'll come back to you for my final question.
Yes.
We were talking about teachers being replaceable, irreplaceable, etc. Now, if I look at it commercially, for a very long time, EdTech players, especially people who are advocating for personal learning tools or devices, they have kind of ignored the presence of the teacher. It almost sounds like they're promising that the learning can happen in complete absence of the teacher. Now, what can we do to kind of merge the two? Because this, as Achin was mentioning, there are business buckets called B2B and B2C in all industries. Education is too important for this bucketization. What can we do to kind of bridge that gap so that this B2B...
You'll have to elaborate your question further, please.
Well, so there's one set of brands that sell to schools, right? And there are another set of brands which are selling directly to the students and saying, you use this at home. Very rarely do you see something that traverses both. Whereas the learning requirement of the same student at home or at school. How can we sensitize even the EdTech brands to be more cognizant of this fact? Enter the classroom if you're teaching at home, and if you're teaching in the school, go enter the home as well. Because otherwise the student gets exposed to different kind of content on the same topic in 2 different cases and gets confused.
I don't agree to this, because these days the new EdTech support systems which are developing, which are, you can do it in school, and like notebook, you can do it in school, use it in school and do it at home. So the platforms or with the companies, the EdTech providers, they are looking at it. I have not met anybody who said that you do it at home and clear your this thing. Everybody is trying to make the best of the two, the home and the school, that do it at home and use it in school, or use it in school, do it in school and use it at home. This is very, very, this is always available. This is these days, rather all EdTech companies are very aware of it. What they are doing is that, and this is what they are not doing it, let me put it, is the human touch. They are like, some are doing that if you've reached this level, go to the next level. If you have reached, otherwise they are flat EdTech supports. that, all right, this is the chapter, this is how you explain, and you can repeat it, revise it at home. So my lecture is done. Like you record your lecture. I was telling you that just before this, I was participating another, that ma'am, you can record your lecture. And the children in your class can use it at home. So you've taught it in school or wherever, online, and they can have it to be like, practice sessions and all, understanding and all. So it's both ways. The teacher's there, and then the help, it is used as a help. So there, today's EdTech company, somehow I have not, maybe I'm not that exposed, but for me, the 20 I have met, they are always trying to create a bridge between school and home. Otherwise, टीचर को खुश कर देंगे, मम्मी पापा को नाराज कर देंगे, और मम्मी पापा को खुश कर देंगे, टीचर को नाराज कर देंगे. तो ना तो वो स्कूल बंद करना चाहते हैं, ना घर बंद करना चाहते हैं, घर की पढ़ाई. So this bridge is always there, and I have not come across anywhere they are this marriage is not there. Marriage between school and home is not there. So that's happening. But yes, again, I would repeat, the kind of school we had pre-COVID, the kind of education we have imparted during COVID can happen only online. You don't need a school. But if you have to come back to school, you have to have a new format of school, new design of school, new thought of a school, where teacher is able to motivate, cajole, do social counseling, social motivation, emotional motivation, whatever, means beyond these subjects, run of the subjects, that you have to finish these chapters, write an exam. For that, I don't need a teacher in tomorrow's schools. I need a teacher who can pat a child, who can say that you've done very well. You can do it this way, right? And this way also EdTech company can take over. But that teacher smile, EdTech company can't provide. And today they claim also that I'll show thumbs up, I'll do thumbs down, etc., things. But teacher is a teacher if you are a true teacher. But all the teachers listening here, 90% of the teachers are only teaching content, forgetting about child and seeing their results. Grade 12 teachers see their results as how many got 100 on 100, and schools also see it like that. तो वो वाले teacher और वो वाला education हम school से vanish हो जाएगा in times to come. EdTech companies और EdTech platforms will take over. अब teacher अगर इंसान नहीं बना सकती तो teacher बेकार है. That would be. So the schools which make human would be the schools. वो दादा नानी वाला school होना चाहिए types. School ऐसा होना चाहिए जहाँ पर बच्चे को प्यार मिले, which these days they lack at home and in school. And we have so many emotional issues. So more psychology in school than content. तो ऐसा school बनाओ. Notebook, make that kind of school.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
You have an opportunity. Yes.
Thank you. This gives us great guidance and great inspiration, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Raghav sir, we will do a bit of crystal ball gazing.
Yeah.
How do you see, sir, the future of EdTech in classroom? Where are we going from here? Next 5 years, what are your expectations?
See, I have got firm belief that now without EdTech companies, we would not be able to survive. When I say we, means schools, colleges, whatever. Now, Mrs. Manju was making a point very clearly. I would take that further, that when you integrate the technology correctly in a school curriculum, the teacher would be able to save the time on making that map or making that Pythagoras thing and things like that. And he would also be able to do what I used to do. I am not a math person, but Pythagoras theorem, a plus b whole square equal to a square plus b square. If you make it that graph thing and then show it to students in colors and things like that, the teacher would be able to save the time. And that time the teacher fellow would be able to invest for her learning, from teaching learning, which has been from time immemorial, Aristotle time. Now it has to become learning. Teacher does not need to know how to teach. Teacher need to know how they learn, and I make them learn. I keep saying one sentence to the students that a lecturer is one who keeps transferring the knowledge written in a book to the student without understanding. Students would start looking at me, what are you talking? Then I will say, yes, this is fact, but then how can he do it? He can do it only after mastering that content, right? How can somebody transfer that knowledge written in a book? He has already mastered, my dear students. You need to learn. Don't try to understand whether he knows perfectly or not. He knows. He has done his PG, right? So that's how it would go really hand in hand. And thank God, all other things have gone negative, but pandemic has given us this positive at least. And I'm very happy because we work in this sector that this would directly help us to evolve little faster.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much, both Raghav sir and Manju ma'am. Thank you so much for sparing your evening and being here today. It's been absolutely wonderful listening to you. As Achin mentioned, EdTech in the classroom is a topic so close to our hearts that having you discuss it, having you validate what we do, gives us tremendous energy. But sir, as always, thank you so much for the wonderful flying start that you gave. We always bank on your years of experience to kind of hit the nail on the head. And sir, particularly the point about teachers and the role that they play, I think has been the recurrent theme in today's webinar. Thank you so much for being here today, sir. Manju ma'am, once again, thank you so much for being here. 2 back-to-back webinars cannot be easy. Off our hat at the kind of energy, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
And sir, thank you so much for sharing with us your experiences that even small schools are adopting EdTech in such a fantastic way.
Yeah.
I think that becomes a great area of learning for everybody else here. Manju ma'am, Hari sir, thank you so much for being here today. It's been
Namaskar.
Thank you so much.
Namaskar.
Thank you, Manju.
Namaskar. Namaskar.
To the rest of the audience, thank you so much for sparing your evening. I know with the CBSE exams going on, it could not have been easy, but thank you so much for supporting us. You are literally the wind beneath our wings. We will see you again soon in our next webinar. Until then, please take care, stay safe, and goodbye.
Thank you, Shubayu. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Good
you, sir.
evening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.